Hi guys, welcome to another lecture of JavaScript, and in this lecture I will teach you how to use functions. Functions are very important, and they're very useful not only in JavaScript but for all the programming languages. So you'll see that in the next chapter or in the next course, which is going to be PHP. Functions work very similarly to JavaScript functions. So functions, as well as variables and arrays, are very similar in different programming languages. Okay, so if you learn how to create variables or arrays or functions in JavaScript, you'll see that you'll learn how to create them in other programming languages such as PHP very quickly. Okay. We are now in JavaScript, and I'm going to show you how to create your first function in JavaScript. Functions are very useful for organizing your code and for organizing and structuring the different parts of a script. So let's say you have 1,000 lines of code and you need to each part of the code to do different things. So you organize and structure those lines of code in different functions. Okay, so each function will do a different thing for you or for your project. So at the end, instead of having 1,000 lines of code, you'll have maybe 100 functions or 50 functions. Okay, now let's create our first function. The first thing to do is inside your script tags to declare a function. To declare a function, you just type function space, and then you just type whatever name you want for the function, just like the variable. So let's call this first function, and then you type parenthesis, and then you type curly braces, and then inside the curly braces is where you're gonna put the code that you want to declare to this function. Okay, so usually what we do is the last curly brace is down here, and in here let's give some code to this function. Let's type, for example, let's give a document, right, parenthesis, semicolon, and here this function works. Okay, so save this, and if we run this in Chrome now, nothing happens. Why? Because we have to call the function, and to call the function, to run the function itself, we must type the name of the function. So we must type first function, and you must also put the parentheses. Okay, so the function name is this one here. So let's see what happens now, and there it is. The function works. So basically we call the function here to run whatever is inside it, and that's how functions work basically. Okay, this is a very simple example, of course, but this is how they work and how you can use a function on your code. Now let's create a function with arguments. So in the future you'll hear about arguments that you can put in a function, and arguments are values that can be imported into a function. So I'm going to show you how to do and how to use arguments. Between the parentheses, after the name of the function, let's type 1. To put another argument, you type a comma and then 2. Okay, so we have 2 arguments with the name 1 and 2. Okay, and let's give a new name to this function. Let's call it just first, or first name. Save this. Okay, so now we type document, right? This function works let's take this out and type 1 plus 2. And let's give a little space here, a blank space. Okay, you'll understand later on why I'm putting a white space or a blank space. Save this. Now let's put the name of the function here correctly, which is first name. Okay, here. And now inside the parentheses, we're going to type the values that you want to give to 1 and 2 arguments. Okay, to these 2 arguments. So let's type here Victor, comma, and here we can type Bastos. Okay, save this. And I imagine that you already know what's going to happen. So let's launch this. And there it is. Okay, Victor Bastos. So what happens is that arguments is something that you can use. Let's say you don't know right away what value you need to put in here, or what code do you want to give to these 2 arguments. You just know you're going to use these 2 arguments almost like variables inside the function. Okay, so later on when you type, after the function is created, after you call the function, you can give whatever values you want to these arguments. Okay, so what about if we have 2 functions or 3 or 4 functions? Usually in JavaScript, you always put the functions first, and then you can call the functions as you wish. So let's type here, for example, function first name will be Victor. And let's type a second function, last name. That will output document write my second name or my last name. Okay. Okay, let's save this and let's take these values out of here. Okay, and save it. Okay, now let's give it a space here. Okay, save it. And if we call the first function first name, let's see what happens. Obviously it will appear Victor only. Now next, if we type last name, obviously it will call the second function or the function last name and will appear Victor Bastos. Okay, so this is how you can call different functions or multiple functions. Just make sure you put the functions first in your code, and then you can call them as you wish. Okay, guys. Now, don't worry. You'll get more into advanced functions later on the code, and you'll understand later on why do we use functions, and you'll see how useful they are when you have a lot of code. Okay. See you guys later.